question is directed to Rick Parent. How will you work to reduce the debt limit?
Sure, I'll take it. That goes into what I said before. How do you reduce the debt limit? Well, you don't vote to increase it, first and foremost. You say no. And hell no, and no again. People in New Hampshire keep saying no, but what happens, it keeps getting raised. The vote gets going in. That ties back into seeing a budget. I mean, there's no need to raise the debt ceiling. We're borrowing 40 cents on every dollar that we have, and that's unfortunate. But if you see a budget on the table, it hasn't been a budget since Harry Reid has been in leadership in the Senate, and it hasn't been one in 18 months, so there should have been never, ever a vote for any debt ceiling raise in my eyes. I mean, let me challenge everybody that's in the audience here to raise their hands. Are you happy with the debt ceiling getting raised in the last 18 months? No. I don't think so. I mean, none of us are. Because all it does is pass the burden on to our children and our grandchildren and the next generation after that. So what can we do? Get back to the little question. Well, we could say no, and every time they raise the debt ceiling, they ask for that, you say no. And then you get those entitlement programs in order, in check. There's reformation, and that's one of the first things that needs to be done is reformation of programs that are underperforming. You need to do an analysis. And as Congressman, you need to call for that. You need to challenge government to say, hey, we need to get our fiscal house in order before we're going to borrow any more money. Why do we owe anybody in the world any money? It's unfortunate. We shouldn't have a debt ceiling. You know, it's very unfortunate. I hope that's answered the question as good as I can. I'm sure we could elaborate and talk all night about that. We could debate that. There's no need to. Get your fiscal house in order. Stop raising the debt ceiling, and then start working within a budget and have a budget on the table.
Other candidates would like to respond. You have a half a minute.
How I would deal with the debt ceiling is get rid of some of the agencies that are not supposed to be there. Department of Labor, Energy, Education, EPA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Those aren't supposed to be there. They're not part of what government is for. Government has no business being in education or modeling labor or education, energy, whatever. It's not part of their enumerated powers. Get rid of those things that came into existence in the 1970s and 80s. They're just overburdening us. The other thing that I would do is bring our troops home. We're spending $10 billion a month over in Afghanistan. That's $100 billion a year. That could be a start toward it. Thank you.
Without going into all of the details, the reason we have a debt ceiling is because Congress spends too much money. We need to identify that spending. We have a budget churning out here on one hand that never really gets looked at, but we do have the aftermath of the budget, which are the expenses which get audited. Those expenses, even though we need to eliminate a lot of perhaps departments, chipping away expenses one expense at a time will erase the need for the debt ceiling, or at least make a lower debt ceiling.
Okay, 30 seconds. I recently looked at something in the Department of Transportation. They are looking at their budget over the next 6 years. They've asked for $330 million for education on distracted driving. Now, we're going to spend money to tell people that you shouldn't drive when you're distracted? Is that a good use of the money? We could use that money to pay off something else, or just not borrow it in the first place.
Thank you.
GrokTV.